Hello. This is Jonathan, and you're listening to the Johnny Talks podcast, the place where we help you achieve your financial goals. Hola, amigos. Hope you're having a great day wherever you are, whether that's in Montreal, Dublin, or Manila in the Philippines. And if you're a new listener to the show, special warm welcome to you. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you're a returning listener, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me on this podcast adventure. In today's episode, we will speak to my friend Nadia from Speaking of Sense. She writes about a variety of topics around personal finance and focuses mostly on the mindset that revolves around managing your money. The aim of the blog and the recent YouTube channel she just launched is to educate people on how to manage their money at any point in their life, regardless of their income. And today we will discuss the concept of financial stability. What financial stability means, why it is important for you and your family, why people generally struggle with it, and Nadia will provide an actionable 7-step plan to actually achieve that financial stability. This episode is for you if you're getting started with your finances and want some guidance on improving your financial situation, or want to find your way to work towards larger financial goals. But depending on your situation, you may also realize early on in the episode that you're already financially stable. That is, of course, awesome, but the practical way in which Nadia guides us may still help a friend of yours. So make sure you share the episode with them, because I'm pretty sure that this episode and Nadia's resources will help them achieve that financial stability. So without further ado, let's hear the interview. Hello, Nadia. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you, John. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, and I'm glad to speak to you. Today we are speaking to Nadia Malik from speakingofsense.com. I met Nadia at FinCon very briefly, but we kept in touch, and of course I went reading some posts on her blog and on personal finance, and she also recently started a YouTube channel, which is great. So congratulations on starting a YouTube channel, Nadia.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and on your blog, actually, I've also already shared a few posts on Twitter, etc., because I thought they were quite interesting, and you cover quite a wide array of topics, actually.
I do. I actually talk more about the mindset that revolves around managing your money, and the aim of my blog is really to educate people how they can manage their money at any point in their lives. So it does not matter how much money you're making, and it does not matter at what stage in life you are, but the important part is how to manage your money at any point in your life. That's what I teach people, and that's my thing. And also I want to make people aware that they can actually become debt-free no matter how much money they're making. It's all about managing your money and have a clear realization of how much you're making and how much should you be spending. So as long as people know the balance between the money coming in and the money going out, by that I mean like the expenses and the income that they're getting, if they know how to balance that, they can always live debt-free. That's what I talk about in my blog. And every article and all the things that are in my blog are usually related to this topic. And also just a little bit of my own personal journey that I am going through as a blogger and as a stay-at-home mom. I also discuss different things that I have been doing as a side hustle. I also discuss those in my blog.
Mm-hmm. No, very good. And I really like it that you say that it's for everybody, actually. It doesn't matter if you make 40K a year or 80K a year. I mean, it's true that one of the basics, at least in my opinion as well, is that as long as you manage your spending expense ratio, then no, I'm saying the same thing now. Sorry, your income and income and expense balance. Then yeah, of course, it doesn't matter if you make 150, 80K or 40K. So yeah, that's no, I like that idea.
Yeah.
And today, Nadia, we could talk about so many things, but today we are going to talk about financial stability.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is financial stability? How do you define that?
So if you really want to go in technical terms, there are so many ways to define it. Mm-hmm. But the easiest way for most people to understand, like the average anybody to understand is that you need to know what financial stability is. And also, I want to mention that it is the concept of financial stability is different for different people. Again, I'm going to mention the fact that any person who is at a certain point in their lives, they have a different definition of financial stability, or they can categorize in a different group on how they can relate to financial stability. So basically, financial stability is if you have enough resources or if you have enough money to spend on your day to day, and then there is something that you are putting in saving. If you are at that point in your life, at any age or at any level in your life, any stage of your life, if you have that kind of resources where your day to day does not get affected by something unexpected happening, it means you're financially stable.
Okay, so it's not exactly this. When we talked and you said, yeah, I want to talk, I would like to expand on financial stability. I was thinking about financial independence. So I did not know exactly where to put it. So now I understand that. So it's not about financial independence. It's to have something on the side saved up, basically, or
Yep.
that your daily expenses, as you say, are not affected
Yes.
by
Yes.
some sudden change. Okay.
That's right.
And you said financial stability means different things to different people. Do you
Yes.
have a few examples, 2, 3 examples?
Yeah, for sure. For some people, it can be um, like if somebody who's just starting with their finances, like a youngster or who just got out of high school, because some kids are already working, or just for their pocket money, or just for their extra money that they want to earn on the side, just to spend on themselves. So for them, it could be just to be able to pay for their, you can say, vacation, or if they are having if they are spending something on entertainment, or if they are spending something, any extra bills that their parents are not responsible for, they are paying for that. For them, that can be a financial stability. And then if we go to another step, for a family where there are kids involved, and there are two parents, even if both are working or just one is working, for them, financial stability is to be able to provide everything, and then just a little bit left over. For them, it can be that. And for some people who are a little bit in a higher income range, it can be an additional savings in the form of assets and investments. So apart from their day-to-day expenses that are just getting covered, they have some investments or assets that they can just fall back on, or they don't have to actually rely on their 9 to 5. So that's another level of financial stability. So it's so the mindset is different for everybody. And for some people, for some people like me, because I really believe that a financial stable person is the one who has no debt. For some people, being completely debt free is termed as financially stable. So even if they have like 9 to 5 jobs, they are going on their 9 to 5 jobs and they are making their ends meet. If they don't have any debt, then they would consider themselves financially stable. So it's different for everybody, and it's different for people in different circumstances. And I would not put a number on it. Like as a personal finance blogger, I would not put a number on it because it varies. For some people, their comfort is matters more. For some people, material things matter more. For some people, emotional well-being matters more. So whatever brings you that comfort, or whatever brings you that contentment in your life, is gonna be a financially stable. You can call it being financially stable. And for some, that's the last category that I would want to mention. For some people, financial stability just means that they have some extra money for their vacation or their enjoyment. Like they don't care about how many hours they have to put at work. As long as, like you say, like at the end of the year they have some money for vacation, they're fine with that. So it varies from person to person, but for me, it's being completely debt free. That's what I would call financially stable. So the definition can be put in different several ways depending on different people's circumstances or different people's expectations from their lives.
Yeah, no, I see it, and I think it has a great value. I think for me, I mean, then I think I'm financially stable. I have some mortgage to pay, but okay, I think I'm quite okay with my savings, etc. So that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not the case of everybody, and maybe not every listener. And okay, I'm passionate. I mean, you too. We are both passionate about personal finance, and of course, I think being financially stable is a consequence of that. But
Yes.
not everybody is a personal finance nerd or passionate about personal finance. And
Yeah.
what would you say, Nadia, or the struggles for people not being financially stable? Well, I think in my mind they could be. What are the main struggles, or why do people struggle with financial stability?
So I can keep talking about about this topic like on and on and on. I have so much stuff on my blog related to this, but I'm just gonna do just gonna talk about some basic things that people struggle with, and they're common. They're so common. And when you are going through this, you don't realize it. But sometimes you really need to you really need somebody to say it to you. Like you really need to hear them. As soon as you hear them, you're like, haha, that's what's happening. So they really need to hear it, and these are very common ones. I'm sure like there are so many people close in our family or friends. If you just talk to them about achieving financial stability, they would be like blah blah blah, they don't want to listen to you. But
Hmm.
as soon as you start telling them like what they are missing or what they are not doing right, they would be like, yeah, maybe that's right, maybe this person knows what they're talking about. So I'm just going to go briefly in those things.
Yes.
And the first one is that when people cannot stop buying stuff, like with buying stuff, I'm not talking about the basic ones. I'm not talking about your day to day like groceries and your your things that you rely on for your survival. I'm not talking about those. I'm not talking about the car loans. I'm not talking about the mortgage. I'm not talking about the basic groceries. I'm talking about the things that involve a little bit of thought process where you need to know the difference between a need and a want.
Hmm.
So like you see something that you really want, and the fact that you do not need it, if you cannot differentiate between those two things, you're going to fall for the biggest problem that we have as a consumer. You're going to fall for impulse buying. When you cannot stop yourself from impulse buying, that is actually stopping you from achieving the milestone of financial stability. So, knowing the difference between needs and wants is super important. Everybody, and I teach that to people all the time, and even my kids, like they're so young, but I keep telling them that you need to know if you really want it or you need it. The simple example is that, like, I would just very basic example, and I'm telling you everybody can connect with that example. Every year Super Bowl happens. It just happened like this weekend. It happens, and people have this concept that they need to update their TV. Like, I don't know, for some reason, like, I don't get that. Like, there are so many people in the stores and so many people like getting updated their TVs and stuff when they have this perfectly fine working TV at their home. The game is gonna be the same. Like if you have like whatever subscription you have Hulu, you have Netflix, it's gonna be in HD or whatever like resolution you want to watch it. But it's just your mindset that you need to go and you need to get a new TV just because Super Bowl is happening. Super Bowl is not making you any money, and you're just wasting your money. Like that's how the marketing works. Like the marketing companies, they work like that. They make money like that, and people don't realize that. Like just updating your TV for just one game once a year is not a need. It's what you want. Like if you do not have a TV in first place, like you go ahead and buy the biggest one, whichever you want to
Hmm.
do.
Yeah, we have the same here. I mean, we don't have Super Bowl, of course, in Europe, but we are a fan of soccer.
Yeah.
And we have the same things every 2 years, the Euro Cup and the World Cup.
Yes.
And then it's like the TV thing. It's really like it's always like this. Like the sales go up like crazy.
I know. I don't get that. So the second one that is also very common, and it's a big problem with our generation, or maybe the generation that's coming next, is the excessive use of credit cards. I do not like using credit cards, and there is a good reason why. Because when you are using your credit cards, you do not realize how much money is actually getting out of your account, or you actually have. like have that money in your accounts in first place. So it's like that, using that plastic money that you don't see, and you
Hmm.
don't see it getting out of your pocket. um, and that's where you make the biggest mistakes. The debt keeps racking up, and most of the people do not check their statements on monthly basis, or on like even for 6 months or so. So these expenses just keep racking up or keep piling up on their credit cards, and they don't even realize. And these small expenses, day-to-day expenses, they add up and they don't even realize it. So if people can just minimize the use of credit cards, they would actually know how much money they're spending, and they can be mindful of that fact, like this credit card use. So that's the second important thing that people are doing, and these are the habits that people have, and that's why they're struggling with achieving the financial stability.
Hmm. No, no, yeah, and I think, yeah, that there's plenty others I think in my head, but okay, let's stop here. And those struggles, I think they're pretty common. And how can one overcome the struggles, or at least how would you say one can work his way towards financial stability? How should one get started, actually?
Okay, so there are several steps that you can follow,
Hmm.
but I'm gonna quickly go through them, and I'm sure people can really go in depth by doing the research on the internet. But because we have a limited time for the podcast, so we're good. We're just gonna go through the steps, and I'm gonna talk about them one by one. And you're welcome to share your input, or whatever you have to say with those. So the first one that I'm going to go through is, it's very important, and people do not realize it. We are living this fast-paced life, and we there are times like, r- other than the traditional education, most of the people don't realize that they need to invest in educating themselves. So by educating themselves, I'm not saying about taking another course, or getting an admission in college, or a university course or anything. I'm just talking about like just educating yourself in on the basic levels. Like if somebody has been brought up in a household where they did not talk about money, they did not know how to manage money, they need to educate themselves. And it does not need um, money. There is so many free resources, there is so much education present online. There are so many free resources that you can actually use in order to learn. And
Hmm.
that's important. That's the first step that everybody needs to do. That's the first mindset step, I would say, because I talk about mindset on my blog, the money mindset, and it's all about that. Once you are mentally prepared, or you're mentally ready to like get to it, then only then you can go on the next step. So the first thing is, you need to invest your time, and you need to commit yourself to educate yourself.
Hmm. There's a ton of free resources, blogs, podcasts, whatever.
Yeah.
But you can also buy a book on finance, like a basic book, like a simple book, like, I will teach you to be rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, etc. I mean, those books, they cost nothing. They cost $10 or €10, $15.
Nothing. And most of the books you can actually get from the library. Nobody's reading these books from the library. Trust me. That's why people are struggling. Like I go to this personal finance
Hmm.
section in the libraries, and there's nobody there. And you can see people shopping in the malls and wasting their money, but not doing anything on how to manage the money.
Yeah, so for relatively inexpensive, I mean, for few money, you can already get so much education and get started.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
what's the next step, Nadia? Once you
Okay.
get started.
Yeah. So the next step is, once you have the mindset, you need to find an employment or job, or any kind of commitment that you really enjoy. So the thing that I'm saying here has is actually interrelated to the first point that I already said. So when I said invest in yourself, so when you are committing to a job, or when you are committing to an employment or any kind of full-time work, you need to have like a clear realization that you can actually do this job. Okay, and if you actually like this job, that is like cherry on the top. Because if you are passionate about something that you are doing on day-to-day basis, it really helps you to move further in your career or in your life. For some people, any kind of job is good. They are okay because they need to make a certain amount of money every day, and they don't mind in whatever environment they're working in, and that's perfectly fine. As long as they are achieving their financial goals or they are not going under debt, that's fine. But for somebody who has some creative side, or who really feels trapped in like corporate jobs, they need to find the right job. As soon as they have this clarity, and they are in the right place in their mind, in their head, they can actually keep working towards their financial stability. So if you are in a situation, so like, just to sum it up, I would just sum it up in one sentence. If you are struggling, or if you are not feeling good on an emotional level or a physical level, based on what you are doing
Hmm.
on day-to-day basis, it's not going to help you to achieve the financial stability because you don't have the right mindset. So find something that you're passionate about, or if you cannot spend most of the time doing that, then you need to have some time allocated in the whole day where you can actually do something creative, or whatever you love, or whatever you want. Like, there are so many people doing these side hustles on top of their 9 to 5. Like, I'm sure you can actually tell me like 10, 15 people in your group or in your company that like the people you know that are doing the 9 to 5, and then they're doing something they're passionate about, like as side hustles. People are doing that, and that's what you need to have another thing or another separate mindset going on along with your day to day.
No, no, very good. And as well, just one thing that comes to mind is that if you're unhappy,
Yeah,
at your job or whatever your job,
yeah,
just think of the scarcity, the book of scarcity,
yeah,
because then the thing is, your mind is busy with, yeah, I'm not happy, I need to find something else. And okay, you
yeah,
spend your time worrying or trying to apply for other jobs or whatever, and maybe you're not spending your time to improve at work, or to get more stable at work, to enjoy your work, and to develop something you
yeah,
like. So it's something you really need to work on, absolutely. And in my case, well, this is my side hustle, the podcast. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
my job is fine, but of course, my heart lies more with the podcast and personal finance. So of course,
Yes,
I
yes.
am an example of you of getting to the financial stability.
I know. It's like you need to have something passionate going on in your life in order to move ahead, because this run of the mill 9 to 5 job is going to burn you out at some point. Like, at some point, and everybody agrees with that. So have something that is on the side, or that caters to your creative side. That is
Mhm.
important. Yeah. So the third thing that I would want to talk about is very, very important and very common with so many people. And I term it as, you need to make your finances personal. With this, I mean to say, when you are managing your finances, you need to just pay attention to your finances. So, the mindset that you need to be able to manage your finances is that you need to have your blinders on and just pay attention to what you're making and what are your expenses, what is your income, and how you can manage it. If you keep being distracted by everything that is going on around your life, and like, of course there are going to be people who are making more money, or there are going to be people who got something from their, like, as an inheritance, or some investments or some assets from their parents or grandparents or whatnot. There are obviously going to be people who are big on materialistic things, like they have shiny cars or like big houses and stuff, and whatnot. And even as a youngster, when you are going to high school, or now even middle school, like, I have my kid in middle school, and I see all these like kids like raving about these new cell phones. Like, cell phone is like a big expense, if you ask me. If you keep updating your cell phone every year, it's a big expense. And it's funny how I talk to my husband that we might not have insurance on our lives, but these cell phones need insurance. Like, every time you go buy a cell phone, they're gonna ask you, do you want an insurance on your cell phone? I'm like,
Yeah.
what? So it's like, it's funny how these material things have taken over our lives. And
Mhm.
if you really need to pay attention to your finances, you need to like get these blinders on, and you need to manage what you have and how you can last it and how you can manage it. Uh, so you and like the concept of keeping up with Joneses also resonates with this point really on a biggest level, because if you keep on catching up with these trends and stuff, you are never going to be financially stable. So you have to have a long term thought process or long term mindset where you are actually looking at your future, where these materialistic or these expensive things are not going to come and help you if you're not financially stable.
Oh, very good. I absolutely like it. And, the compare yourselves to your neighbors or the Kardashians or the
Yes.
Joneses. I mean,
Yes.
it's everywhere. And I've seen it from friends of mine, etc. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's absolutely something to keep in mind and to keep your blinders on, as you say.
Yeah. So the number four and the number five, actually, they are, yeah, I would just summarize them in one point. So after we have the complete realization and we have the mindset and we are in a good place mentally, we need to go through the steps. We need to follow the steps that are going to bring us to financial stability. And the first step, and the very important one, and people find it so hard, and I don't understand why they're struggling with it, is they need to have a solid budgeting strategy, and they also need to live below their means. So if they are doing their budgeting correctly, like if they know how much money is coming in, and then again the balance between how much money is coming in and how much money is going out, if they know how they are balancing it and if they know how they are doing it, they are obviously gonna be living below their means.
But Nadia, budgeting is boring.
I know it is boring, but when you are older and when you have do not have a salary coming in, and when you do not have a steady stream of income, if you have this money left over that you saved while you were doing budgeting, that's going to help you. I mean, you don't want to work until like you're 60 and 70. I see these old people and I feel so bad. You have no idea how bad I feel. Like the other day, there was a pizza delivery guy and he was good, like 65 years old. I felt bad, like getting the pizza out of his hand. So I mean, there could be many other reasons. I'm not saying that he did not manage his money right, but most of the time that's what happens. That's where life ends up with you, and you are not in a good place. Like, I'm not saying that unexpected things don't happen, and there could be some medical bills or there could be some emergencies or something happen, but like, you can only try, you can only start with the good strategy, you can only take the right steps, and the rest, in most cases it would be ideal, it would work for you.
Hmm.
So if even if it's boring right now, it's going to help you further, it's going to give you a good future. So just hoping that and just praying and just working towards it, it's gonna be good.
Yeah, and just for budgeting, I mean, I am I'm not an Excel nerd, but at least a money nerd. So I have kind of a budget in Excel, so it's quite simple. And I'm
Yes.
single, so it's very easy for me. And still, if my family expands, I mean, I will still keep my Excel because okay, I just need to expand a few columns. Do you have any special tips for people or that want to start budgeting? Maybe there are some listeners that say, well, okay, budgeting, I see the importance of it, but I'm not good at Excel. How should I start?
I mean, I am not I would not call myself a technical savvy person. So I would just take a pen and a paper and start writing everything, like how much money is coming in and how much needs to get out. That's how I do. I do not have, like, even though that I write about it all the time, but I just go with the basics, because if you burden yourself with like apps and stuff, there are so many, there are tons, and
Hmm.
it depends what you want to do, and how you want to manage your money. There are so many, like you can Google them and you can get them, like there are tons. But I would just start with simple pen and paper, and that's what I say, and that's the easiest. And you can just stick it just on your refrigerator, and you'll know what's happening in your life, and you'll know what you need to do and what you don't need to do, and where you can spend and where you cannot spend. That's about it. And the best way, and another best way that I do is, like, I use cash. Using cash gives you a real picture of how much money is getting out. So if you have a certain amount of cash set for everything, like every expense, you would not go above it because you don't have anything left over. You know what I mean? If you don't have that money, where are you going to spend it? How are you going to spend it? So as long as you know, as long as you can control, like in any way, you have to do this.
No, very
Yeah.
good. I really like the cash thing because then, yeah, it's like back in the days.
Yes.
And until I finished university, I never had a credit card. I only got it when I started to work or just at the end of my studies. So
Yeah.
I was always used to cash. And then, yeah, you have 100 euros or dollars.
Yes.
When you have 10 left, you're like, oh, I need to be careful with what I do.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true because you don't do that when with a credit card. You never see those 10
No.
last dollars or yeah. So that's very good. And just one thing I just want to add regarding the budgeting.
Yeah.
It's not sexy at all, but once you've done it with pen and paper, with Excel, with an app, whatever,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
don't have to spend a lot of time on it neither because once you've done it, maybe the first time takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
But then, month after month after month, you just tweak a little bit here and there because if you have a stable income and the same expenses every month for your bills, you just put some exceptional bills and some exceptional purchases and maybe some hopefully exceptional income or windfalls. So that's good. But you don't need to, once you've done it, you don't need to spend a lot of time on it the next months.
No, no. While you were saying that, would you rather be sexy or rich? It reminded me of Ramit's new book that we got on FinCon, and he has a chapter, introduction chapter. Would you rather be sexy or rich? And it's interesting. It's so interesting. If you guys have not read that, I suggest you that even if you cannot finish the book, just please read that one chapter. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's one of the first ones, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the first one. It will open your eyes and and it will give you such a clear perspective of why it is important to budget, why it is important to work, at least like try to work for financial stability. You're gonna love it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And his workaround is say, to reframe it as a conscious spending plan.
that's true. That is true. Exactly. That's absolutely true.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll put the link in the show notes to the book because it's a great book. It's one of my
Yes.
best books, and
Yeah.
yeah, I've written a review on it myself. So yeah, it's a great recommendation, Nadia. And what about point 6?
Okay, so the next one is when people are managing money, they need to have a certain categories that are important if they want to achieve financial stability. And in those categories, the one that is critically important is the emergency fund. I am going to talk about the investments or the retirement plan next, but emergency fund is very, very important, and and it is important in the sense because this is a kind of fund that can give you a guarantee that you do not go like in negative, or you cannot get in under debt. And like I would just explain the emergency fund in a very simple way, that emergency fund is a certain amount of money that you need to put away with every paycheck, that you need to take some amount of money from every paycheck and you need to put it away for something unexpected happening. God forbid, like some accident happens, or you have a disability that you cannot go to work, or in case of any job loss, you never know, things can happen, or there's a certain kind of repair, or like something happens, like your house flooded or something happened in your house that you need to fix right away. Like you need that money at that instant. You the need is great, and that need demands you to have that money right away. And if you go and apply for a personal loan, or if you try to get a line of credit for that, sometimes it's not possible for you to get it on that. And sometimes if you apply for a personal loan or line of credit, you might get such a high interest rate that it would not make sense. So that emergency fund is like a cushion that you can fall on in case of like something unexpected happens, and that's important. Most of the personal finance bloggers suggest that you need to put 10% of every paycheck in the emergency fund, but I would highly recommend that if you are budgeting right and if you are living like below your means, you should be able to put 20% of every paycheck. And again, I'm gonna stress on the point that it does not matter how much money you're making. Whatever money you're making, you need to have an emergency fund. Don't think that, okay, I'm gonna make like 30K or 40K or maybe 80K, then I'm gonna start an emergency fund. No, emergencies are not going to wait for your age or for the stage of life that you're in. Anything can happen. So you need to put that amount. And if you have a stable income or if you have a family, then it's highly suggested that you should have at least 6 months of your pay in your emergency fund. That's critical. Because if you have kids, if you have dependents, and if you are a single income family, it's critically important because you don't want to go under, you don't want to be in debt just because something happened in your life.
No, no, absolutely. And actually, I just had a very good friend of mine. She's in a dire situation at work, let's say. And actually, she told me, and I didn't know she was reading the blog or listening to the podcast. And she said, "Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, you should have some savings." And now, actually, regardless of what will happen at work, I feel a bit safe, because
Yeah.
in the worst case, I still have some months to go on, and then I can change jobs or whatever.
That's true.
So she felt good, I mean, of course, she needs to fix the situation, but at least she feels okay. She has some cushion, as you say. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, that's important because it also prevents you from getting into something like, suppose, like, I'm just gonna give you a small example. Suppose if you had a job loss and you would not, if you have a certain amount of money left over or in the emergency fund, you would have the liberty or you would have the freedom to choose the right prospect for your next job or your employment.
Correct.
You would not feel pressure to just get into anything just because you need a stream of income or a steady stream of income to go by your day by day expenses.
Very good.
Yeah.
So what's the next level after the emergency fund, Nadia?
Okay, once you are done with all these steps, you have a certain amount of money put in emergency fund and you are doing the budgeting and everything. Then comes the next step. Most of the people, I would not suggest for you to go on these steps unless like you're making like above 50K. But if you are passionate about it and if you can manage your money, then I would tell people to either put their money in some kind of investment or a passive income stream where it keeps growing on its own. And also they need to have a retirement plan in place. That is super important. It's unfortunate that there are so many average Americans who do not have a realization that they need to have a retirement plan. It's really natural and human in so many ways that when you are young, when you are thriving, and when you have this energy and you have ambitions and you want to achieve things, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. This is gonna happen this way. But as soon as 30, 35, and that middle age hits, there are so many responsibilities you have. There are so many things that you have to take care of that your retirement, if you do not have the retirement plan by that time, it just keeps being pushed away. Like it feels like it's unachievable. So you need to start it before, and at the ideal time to start the retirement plan is before you even start a family. So people usually start a retirement plan after they have kids and stuff. So I would highly suggest that you get a like a head start and you start it and then go start planning the family, because you would already be on your way. Like, you are already deducting the money, you're already getting some money out on that, and it would not feel like an extra expense in your already happening life. You know what I mean? So that's why it's important. And also investments, you have to be really, really careful and knowledgeable about what kind of investments you want to commit to. But there are so many places where you can start investing. And then again, you do not need to have a lump sum amount of money to start investing. You can start investing with any amount of money. There are so many platforms where you can even start with like $100. So even the youngsters who are going in high schools, if they have any extra money coming or they're making any extra money, they can start investing. I'm not an expert by any means where I can tell you what brands or what categories or what platforms, because it varies from person to person. But if you Google them and you see what if it's best for your needs, or if it resonates with you, you should definitely go and check them out. And if nothing else, then you can just, again, like the first point that I said, you can invest in yourself, you can start educating yourself, you can learn a new skill. So whatever works, you that money needs to work for you on the side, or it should start working towards the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the thing is with retirement and starting early, at least to invest or to save money. I read this article a long time ago when I was still living in Norway, and there was an example. It was a Norwegian magazine, money magazine, and they shared an example of let's say a lady that is let's call her Susan. Susan is 25 years old, and she puts 100 euros every month on the side for her retirement. And then you have a Johan who's starting to put money for retirement like at 35. The numbers will maybe not be correct, but basically what they said is that, okay, so this Susan puts money and then she gets a kid around 32 and then she stops for 5 years and then she continues on. And then at the end of her life, she has saved a certain sum. Yeah. And then the Johan, if he doesn't put like, I don't know, 500 euros instead of 100 euros, starting 10 years older, he will never catch up.
It's basic math. It's basic math. Like, you don't need to be a personal finance expert for that. It's like basic intelligence. And if you put these numbers in front of a kid, like a middle schooler, they can tell you who's gonna be better than who, right? So it's just basic thing. And especially one more thing that I don't want to forget: if your employer matches your 401k or whatever part of the world you are, if your employer matches your contribution, you should never ignore that. As soon as you start working and there is an option with your employer that they can contribute equally, there are so many employers that do it equally with your contribution in your 401k or 403b, depending on what part of the world you are in. I'm sorry. You should do that right away. There are no exceptions in that, like, because you're not gonna lose anything on that. That's your money. That's going in the savings. And if it's like getting out of your account right away and you don't even see it, it's even better, because you would not think of that money. That money is already being put away on its own, like on automation. And if your employer does not provide you with any of these plans, because some companies might be smaller, then you can just invest in IRA, like the individual retirement account. So whatever works. These are just the basic ones, like just the basic ones. There are so many other options. So whatever works for you, just the bottom line is you need to have a retirement plan in place, and you need to have some investments in place.
Yeah, and here in Europe, I mean, I worked in several countries, France, Norway, and now in Luxembourg. So most of the companies I worked at, they have this retirement plan. We don't need to contribute actively. The good thing is that it's done automatically by the employer, so they have their pension funds, etc.
That's perfect.
That's perfect. So you don't even need to think about it. So some money is saved in the background. And then, of course, you have the social security in our countries. But okay, this, to me, I don't count it. I see this as an extra. If it comes, it comes. If not, we'll see. And then in addition, there are some, depending on the countries, there's different forms of tax advantage accounts for retirement.
That's true. It's like a no-brainer way of saving money. Like, that's what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so then once we completed the 7 steps, we are financially stable, Nadia?
I'm hoping, like, if everything goes in the right order, and if you are committed to it, and the most important thing that you have to do is that you should not feel it as a burden. This is like a constant growing process. Like we grow as human beings, this should come naturally to you. If you think of it as a burden, it's really gonna affect you emotionally and physically. So do it passionately, do it with all all your love, and if there are some points where you feel bogged down, or you feel like people are doing this and I'm not doing that, you feel unmotivated, then maybe take a break or just have fun, just do something that makes you happy. But not do not pressurize yourself in doing it. And I'm sure, and let me tell you that much, the people who have this sense, it's very addictive. They cannot let go of it. And I'm telling you, based on my own experience, like once you start developing these habits, it's like a challenge for you. Just challenge yourself with these small things. Okay, can I do this? Can I save like few bucks here? Can I save few bucks here? And it gives you such a sense of achievement. Like I'm just gonna give you my example. So
Yeah.
if I go and I save money on like basic things that I usually pay more, and I save some money, it just, I'm happy for the rest of the day. Like I don't really care what's happening. Like some, like it, nothing bothers me. Like at least for that day. So do it as a challenge, do it as a fun thing, and it will give you something to think about, and a mindset. And especially if you have kids, if you are parents, like I am a parent, I have three kids. It can be sometimes challenging with the kids. It sure does, because they don't get the concept yet, or they're too young to absorb all this information. You can make it a challenge for them too. If you're gonna do it as a game with them, it's gonna be easier. It's gonna be easier for
Hmm.
everybody to absorb. It's just important that as partners, or as a household, adults, you need to be on the same page. So if you guys are on the same page as a family, like as an adults, then that shouldn't be a problem. You guys are gonna be great.
Absolutely. Very good. Excellent tips, Nadia. And just wondering about yourself. So, when or where did that passion come from for personal finance? Were you born with this budgeting skills or financial skills, or did it come later in your life after getting married or before?
Okay, so I have all this story on my blog, and I'm not gonna bore you with my story. I'm just gonna give you like a brief background of that. So, me and my husband both were like all the average Americans, and we did not really care about the money. Like we would, both people were earning at that time, uh, and when you do not have kids, you do not have that many expenses, and the money was just coming in and going out, and we were just like we did not really care about saving or anything. But there was a time when my car broke down all of a sudden, and I was in the market to buy a new car, and being like on my own and having this money coming, I just wanted to have a fancy car. I did not want to go for a medium one, or the regular one. I Because I was updating, I was like, in my mindset, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get the one that I really want.
Hmm.
So I went in, and we realized that we do not have anything. There was so much debt on our credit cards that we were struggling with the basic necessity at that time, because I needed car to go to work. So that's what happened, and that's what, like, that was it for us. So we sat down and we realized that how much money has been wasted just because we were not like managing it better. So
Hmm.
that was it for us. Like, kids came after, everything came after, but we just stuck to it. After that, I was like, okay, this is not happening in my life ever. Like, I don't want to be embarrassed in front of like anybody that I do not have enough money to spend on my basics. That was it. The mindset changed. We sat down, we got that debt off, and we started a new chapter in our lives where debt was not gonna take over our lives. And after that, we committed to a house, paid off our mortgage in less than 5 years. um, and then it became a constant challenge for us. We never wanted to be in debt, and to this day, we have been traveling. We lived in Canada, we lived in Orlando, we live in California. We have been traveling for last few years, and
Hmm.
our kids play professional golf. So even doing all these things, we just made sure that we are not gonna go in debt. So we actually have been debt free for, this is the 8th year we have not been in debt. So managing money and everything. So that's where it all started. That's where the stories, I'm just going on and on. So that's where it all started. I was not born with that mindset, but I learned it. And if I could do it, then you guys can all do it too. Everybody can do it. You just need that nudge, or you just need that like a wake up call that you're like, okay, no, that's not happening. That's not how I want to live my life.
Yeah.
So that was it. Yeah.
Okay, very good, very cool. So Nadia, thanks so much for sharing your tips to get to financial stability. I really appreciate it, and I think the tips are excellent, especially for anybody starting their journey. So I think that will be quite helpful. And before we close the show, I always have 3 quick fire questions I ask every guest.
Okay.
So my number one question to you, Nadia, is what has been your best investment so far?
Okay, my best investment is investing in setting up my online business.
Mm-hmm.
And anything, like, I have tried to be really frugal with where I spend, but anything that I've spent that has automated my online business and that has given me just a little bit of time in my day, that is my best investment. So if it's saving me like any time of the day, because I have family, I have kids, I have this life, my husband travels for work, so I need to be there for my kids. So anything that I invested that has saved me even like 5 minutes in a day, that has been my best investment. So it's related to some blogging tools, some online softwares and stuff, everything that um, helps me in sustaining my online business.
Yeah, very good, very good. And we talked a bit about books, which is actually the first step. So what is the best book you would recommend to anyone? And it does not need to be a financial book.
Okay, to tell you the truth, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say anything. With kids and like all the life that is happening around me, I haven't been reading books for quite a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And the other reason is that everything that I read is on the blogs. I read blogs all the time. So the last book that I read was the Ramit Sethi one, the second edition. I Will Teach You to Be Rich. That's the last one I read, but I haven't finished it. I'm not gonna lie to you. But that's been very inspirational and very eye opening.
Okay, excellent. And any blogs that you, I mean, 1 or 2 blogs that stand out in while you're reading?
I follow some of my very close friends that I have made in community. I follow those blogs. I follow Paula Pant's podcast. I love her podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then I follow the blogs, some lifestyle blogs too, because personal finance I do myself so much that I go for inspiration and stuff, but that's not my like I don't spend too much time on those. So I have some lifestyle blogs. I would recommend Every Day She's Sparkling. Her blog is good. And then there's Her Paper Route by Chelsea. I cannot remember her complete name. Her Paper Route, that is good. And then another um, website that's a very close friend, and she has not too much content but very good high quality content on her blog. Her name is Amira, and the blog's name is A Self Guru. So I read those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
just keep myself updated. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Paula Pant, so the podcast is Afford Anything. So
Yeah.
it's one
Yes.
I've seen her at FinCon, but I didn't really know her content. So I started to listen a little bit. No, I like her style because she's quite to the point and efficient.
Yes.
And so it's one of the podcasts I'm starting to listen to as well. So very good.
Yeah.
And then my last quick fire question to you, Nadia. What is the best purchase you've made for under $100?
Okay. The $100. Let me think. I actually just purchased 2 softwares last night. I think like committed to it, not purchased, but committed to them, and they are under $100. I Because I'm starting webinars soon.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just having problems like uploading or like doing the videos and stuff. So I committed to Vimeo, and the results are awesome. I was super because I spent last late night doing that and everything. So that was awesome. The results are awesome. I'm really happy with Vimeo. And then I would not say any other tools, but I would say the best $100 that I spent was a little while ago that I spent on myself, just for myself, like a self-care. And that's super important when you are a full-time mom and a full-time blogger and all these things happening, and you need to spend some time by yourself pampering. So I spent, I think, $200 on a spa day, which was well worth it. It had rejuvenated me for like next 6 months. So that was good.
Okay, very good, very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then Nadia, of course, the listeners want to know more about you after this episode. So where can they read more about you? Maybe your story more in detail on how you got out of debt, for example. Where can they find you?
Yeah, for sure. You can find all my posts on my blog. That is www.speakingofsense.com. And I have also started a YouTube channel. That is also, if you go in YouTube and you type in Speaking of Sense Nadia Malik, you will find my channel. I do not have a lot on that. But again, I just started 2 months ago, and I have been putting the videos that have this money advice, these topics that people search all the time. And I wanted to connect with my readers or my audience on face-to-face level, and that has been really, really good. And also, I am in the process of launching my online digital product. I'm really, really excited about it. That information is also going to be on my blog site. So if you want to get hands on my digital product, or you want to see what I'm working on, it's actually related to driving blog traffic for new bloggers and online business owners. So it's a very good one if any of the new bloggers or online business owners are listening to me. So I think one more week and that's going to be launched, and that's and also I'm starting with the webinars and stuff. So there's a lot going on. I'm sorry if I'm burdening you with all these things, but everything is growing, the business is growing, and I'm growing with the time. So but I'm hoping by this summer there's going to be a lot that you can see on my blog.
Yeah, perfect. And I'll link it all up in the show notes. And looking forward to read more and to now watch some of your videos, Nadia. Excellent.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for having me. It was such a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, really enjoyed Nadia's approach to reach financial stability, a clear 7-step action plan with clear steps. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you learned something from it as well. And here are the key takeaways that I noted down from this episode. So first things first, let's start with financial stability. In short, it means that you have enough resources, money to spend on your day-to-day expenses, and you're able to save. It is different for different people. As Nadia mentions, for younger people just starting out, it can mean to be able to pay for a vacation, some entertainment, or some extra bills that your parents are not paying, for example. For a family with kids, it can mean to be able to provide everything and have some leftover, like vacations or whatever. And for a higher income range people out there, it can mean additional savings in the form of assets and investments. Next, reasons why people struggle with financial stabilities. Well, there are plenty of them, but we focused on 2 of them here on the episode. One is to not being able to make the difference between a need and a want, which can lead to impulse buying. I mean, she mentioned the TVs on sale at every Super Bowl. I mean, in Europe, we have the same with the TV on sales at every World Cup or Euro Cup. And then the second point that she mentioned was the excessive use of credit cards. It's true, it's money you don't see. I mean, you just swipe your card and that's it, and you can afford anything you want. But the problem is that the bills accumulate in the background if you don't take care of them. Yeah, for the next point, I'll just summarize the 7 steps to reach financial stabilities, which were: number 1, educate yourself about personal finances through online resources, books, podcasts, etc. The good news is that these are mostly free or very inexpensive, like a book that costs about 10 euros or 15 euros, something like this. Number 2, look for a job or full-time employment that you enjoy. Because if you're struggling on an emotional level because you're in an unhappy situation at work, etc., it will not help you achieve that financial stability. And this can mean, for example, for the creative people, to pursue a creative outlet that you love. Number 3, make your finances personal. Pay attention to your finances. Don't get distracted by how your peers live, how they manage their money. Focus on your income, your expenses, etc. Number 4 and 5, which were kind of tied together, have a solid budgeting strategy, and live below your means to prepare for the future. Number 6, build an emergency fund. In other words, a money safety cushion for unexpected events such as disabilities, repairs, job loss, etc. And last but not least, the fun part, at least for me, step 7, start investing or put money in a form of passive income stream. There are many possibilities out there. Stocks, peer-to-peer lending, Legos, real estate, cryptocurrencies, you name it. But nevertheless, as a minimum, what Nadia recommends is that you put your money towards retirement, especially if there's an option available at your current employer or if you can benefit from a tax advantage account in the country you live in. And then one of the overarching key takeaways is that while you're on a journey, do not be too hard on yourself along the way. Reaching financial stability can take months or years depending on your situation. The important is to enjoy the process as well. And as Nadia mentioned, make it like a games, make it like a challenge, make it like a games with your kids. And of course, once you made it all the way to the top, well, what can I say? Congratulations to you. You are officially financially stable. And that is what Nadia and me want for you. So that was it for today. Thank you so much for listening. It really means a lot to me. Make sure you subscribe in Apple Podcast. And of course, please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions or feedback. Send me an email, john@johnnytalks.com, or connect through social media at Johnny Talks on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And amigos, once more, thanks so much for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.